Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of this new classroom. Today we're going to take a look at building this little Tic Tac Toe block. The point of this little project is to work on our measurement accuracy and then just get a feel for using some of the different tools and machines. First step is going to be grab a 2x4, check the board, make sure that the section that we are using is going to be fairly clean and clear, doesn't have a whole lot of big knots or anything like that, and that there aren't any major defects in the edge of the board. So we're going to measure and cut off a piece at 4 inches. Now that we have our board marked, we're going to come over to the miter saw and cut that off. Next we are going to find the center of the edge of a board by drawing an X from one corner to the other and then repeating the process. Where the two lines meet is going to be the center of the board. Next we're going to drill a pilot hole and a countersink where the two lines of my X meet. So a countersink is going to allow me to drive the screw into the board as opposed to having the head of the screw sticking out. This is what the countersink is going to look like. This example is just right. If I lay the head of the screw into that countersink, it should fit. This example, the countersink is not deep enough, so the head of the screw is bigger than what the countersink hole is. I want to be careful to not drill too deep. So here we're going to drill my pilot hole and my countersink. Get the tip of my drill bit lined up on my X and then just drill until you get the appropriate depth. When I cut the lid off, I want the rest of this block to be a perfect square. So now I need to measure the width of the board from the end opposite of the countersink that I just drilled. We're just going to measure and mark at 3.5 inches. So we are going to use the bandsaw with the fence to cut the lid off of my Tic Tac Toe block. From each edge, I'm just going to measure and put a mark at 1 3/16 of an inch. And then I'm going to use my speed square to draw a straight reference line at each of my marks. There I have my tic-tac-toe grid marked out. Next we're going to use the miter box with the back saw to just leave a saw kerf on each of those lines that I previously marked. There's a little bit of room for that to move around. I want that to be tied up against either the front or the back. And then I'm just going to cut a shallow saw kerf . We'll find that when I'm cutting with the grain versus cutting across the grain, it cuts a little bit different. It's a lot easier to cut with the grain. This is known as a rip cut. When I cut across the grain, that is a cross cut. Now I need to mark and find the center of each of these squares on my tic-tac-toe grid. Located the center of each of those squares. Here I'm using this standard countersink bit to drill the hole that the marble is going to sit in. You could use this type of bit or just a standard larger diameter drill bit, like a 3/8 to a 1/2 of an inch. And then just drill out at each of the center of each of the X's. And this should just be deep enough for the marble to be able to sit in there. Next, I need to figure out the location for the holes that accept the marbles when the tic-tac-toe game is not in use. I can just take my lid and line up the hole on my countersink with the pilot hole that was already drilled in that block. Line those two up and then just put a mark on each side. That would be indicating where the lid is at when it is in the open position. We're going to use the drill press set up with a 3/4 inch twist drill bit to drill those holes. It is important to not drill all the way through. I want to be careful to not drill too close to the edge because then that's going to be a really weak spot. When you feel like you're getting close, we can use a depth gauge to double check. Once I got the depth that I want, I can set the depth gauge on the drill press or put a screw clamp on the block so that it gives me a little bit more to hold on to, making this operation a little bit safer. The final step is to screw my lid onto the main tic-tac-toe block. I'm going to do that by just using a hand screwdriver and tightening that. To make this a little bit easier, if you take the threads of the screw and rub that on your nose, the natural oil from your skin will act as a lubricant, making it a little bit easier to drive that screw. We want that lid to turn freely, but we don't want it to be too loose. Now I can just do a little bit of finish sanding to remove all of my marks and clean everything up. This little round over all the way across. I can just do that on the belt disc sander or even use a piece of hand sandpaper and soften that edge a little bit. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope the information in the video was a little bit helpful in completing this tic-tac-toe block. We'll catch you on the next one.